May 27, 1940, Northern France. Rain lashes against the cobblestones as gray clouds roll low over the industrial city of Lille. The air smells of burning fuel, cordite, and despair. Trucks rattle through narrow streets packed with refugees, women clutching children, men hauling what little they can. In the distance, the low thunder of German artillery echoes closer by the hour. Inside an abandoned textile factory on the edge of the city, General Jean-Baptiste Maligny, commander of the French First Army remnants, spreads a tattered map across a crate. Around him, officers stand silent, men from the 25th Motorized Division, the 15th Motorized and what's left of the 1st Moroccan Division. Their faces are hollow from days without sleep. The wireless hums faintly, static-filled. Dunkirk has already fallen behind enemy lines. The BEF is retreating toward the coast. The French line, shattered at Arras and Valenciennes, is collapsing north and south. But Lille, this broken, encircled city, is now the last barrier. Maligny speaks softly, almost to himself. If we can hold them here, even for 2 days, they might get up. He means the British Expeditionary Force, hundreds of thousands of men trapped along the coast. Every hour Lille resists means another ship leaves Dunkirk, another life saved. Outside, the city groans with the sound of war. German Stuka dive bombers scream overhead, their sirens cutting through the clouds. Bombs tear into the old city walls. The ground shakes. In the rubble, Captain Francois Petros of the 25th Division drags his machine gun team into a new position along the Diolle River, setting up behind a burned-out tram. The men are filthy, their uniforms caked with soot. Yet their discipline holds. "Hold fire," Petros whispers as a column of Panzer III tanks emerges through the smoke. The German 7th Panzer Division, Rommel's Ghost Division, has arrived from the east. The first tank rumbles forward, its treads grinding the pavement. Then, a flash, a 25mm anti-tank gun barks from the corner of a cafe, and the Panzer bursts into flames. French infantry rise from cover, rifles cracking in defiance. The street fight for Lille begins. Hours turn to days. Street by street, building by building, the French dig in. Maligny's men have no air cover, little ammunition, and no retreat. But they have orders and pride. The Moroccan derailleurs hold the southern flank, singing as they charge through alleys, bayonets glinting. The 25th Division fortifies the industrial quarter. Engineers blow bridges, one after another, choking the German advance. In a cellar beneath the prefecture, medics work by candlelight, stitching wounds as the ceiling trembles. A young soldier, Private René Lefebvre, grips a bloodied St. Christopher medal and whispers, "If the English get away, maybe it means something." Above them, Lille burns. By nightfall, the city is surrounded on all sides. German infantry probe every avenue, their loudspeakers blaring, "Franzis ist Soldaten. Geben Sie auf." French soldiers, surrender, no one answers. Only the steady thump of mortar and the crack of rifles echo back. In the darkness, General Maligny lights a cigarette, the ember briefly illuminating his tired eyes. He turns to his adjutant. "We hold," he says, "as long as we can," and with that the defenders of Lille, 40,000 men against 7 German divisions, prepare to make their stand. The city, once the beating heart of French industry, will become an anvil of defiance. A sacrifice history would almost forget. May 28, 1943 o'clock hours. The night sky over Lille burns red. Factories smolder, oil fires rage, and the acrid scent of cordite fills every lung. The thunder of artillery rolls endlessly, like a storm that never moves on. Beneath the inferno, French soldiers crouch in the ruins, clutching rifles slick with grime. The encirclement is nearly complete. General Maligny receives grim news. The Belgian army to the north has capitulated. The British are retreating toward Dunkirk in full force. To the east, German panzers have closed the last escape route. Lille is now completely surrounded. In a shattered tram depot on the city's edge, Captain Jean Morel of the 15th Motorized Division wipes sweat from his face as shells crash into nearby buildings. His men, exhausted and filthy, stack crates of grenades and ammunition. The depot has become their fortress, a last bastion holding the German tide at bay. "If we fall, they'll be at Dunkirk by tomorrow," Morel mutters. "Then we don't fall," replies Sergeant Delacroix, reloading his MAS-36 rifle with trembling hands. At dawn, Rommel's 7th Panzer Division and General Hoepner's the 16th Corps close in. Stuka sirens howl through the morning mist. Their bombs fall with surgical precision, targeting crossroads and bridges. Columns of refugees scatter in terror as tramlines spark and twist like snakes in the street. The Germans advance behind the explosions, gray-clad, efficient, relentless. They expect a quick surrender. but the French answer with murderous crossfire. Machine guns chatter from shattered balconies. Snipers perch behind chimneys. Mortar thud from hidden courtyards. Every window becomes a gunport. Every street, a kill zone. Rommel's tanks push forward and are met with Molotov cocktails hurled from rooftops by desperate soldiers and even local civilians. In one narrow lane near the St. Andre Church, a Panzer III rounds a corner and is stopped cold by a 47mm anti-tank gun hidden behind a bakery counter. The gun crew, all from the 43rd Colonial Artillery, cheers as the tank erupts in fire, its turret flipping into the street. The counterattack begins. At noon, Major Bernard Magnin, leading a battalion of Moroccan tirailleurs, launches a charge through the railway yard to retake lost ground. The men scream, "Vive la France!" as they rush under machine gun fire, their bayonets flashing. They seize 2 enemy trucks, capture dozens of prisoners, and drag wounded comrades back through the smoke. By evening, both sides are bled white. The streets are littered with shattered rifles, broken helmets, and the bodies of the fallen. Civilians hide in basements, whispering prayers as buildings collapse above them. The city that once hummed with factory whistles is now only flame and ruin. Inside his command post beneath the Grand Place, General Maligny writes a single line in his field notebook. "We are surrounded. But we are not defeated." He sends a final message to General Blanchard, his superior, though he knows it may never reach him. Holding at Lille, resistance continues. For France and for Dunkirk, the men understand what this means. They are fighting not for victory, but for time. Every minute they hold delays the German advance. Every delay means more British and French troops reach the beaches alive. As night falls again, the city glows with embers. The sound of distant engines hums beyond the lines, ships loading men in Dunkirk, thanks to the stubborn defiance of those now trapped in Lille. In the cellar of a ruined café, Captain Morel opens a tin of sardines and passes it around. "Eat," he says. "Tomorrow will be worse." No one argues. The men chew in silence as the ground trembles from another artillery strike. Above them, the church bell of St. Mars still hangs crooked in its tower, cracked, but unbroken like the defenders themselves. The encirclement is complete, but the fight has only begun. May 29, 1940, Lille, 7:15 hours. A dull morning light filters through the haze of smoke that blankets the city. The rain has stopped, but ash still falls like snow. Lille, once proud and bustling, now lies in ruin, a graveyard of stone and steel. German shells have turned the Rue Nationale into a canyon of rubble. The air hums with the buzz of flies and the distant rumble of tanks. In a bombed-out schoolhouse near the Dieule Canal, Lieutenant Henry Duval stands at the window with his field glasses. He can see German infantry advancing cautiously along the boulevard, covered by armored cars. His unit, what's left of the 2nd Battalion, 25th Motorized Infantry, numbers barely 40 men now. They have no reserves, no supplies, and almost no ammunition. Yet they remain. "They're coming again," Duval says quietly. "Then so are we," replies Corporal Girard, sliding another cartridge into the magazine of his machine gun. The battle for Lille has become house to house, floor to floor. The Germans, trained for mobile warfare, are forced into a brutal urban grind they did not expect. Every building becomes a fortress. Every stairwell a battlefield. By mid-morning, German infantry attempt to storm the town hall, a symbolic prize that Maligny refuses to abandon. The defenders, a mix of regulars and Moroccan tirailleurs, unleash a devastating crossfire from windows and sandbagged positions. The first assault is repelled, then the second. Snipers pick off officers as they raise their binoculars. Smoke and screams fill the square. From the west, General Rommel, frustrated by the resistance, orders artillery and dive bombers to level entire districts. Stukas scream overhead, their sirens slicing through the air. Bombs crash into the Place Rihor, pulverizing what remains of the cafes and tram lines. Civilians caught in the open are thrown to the ground by the shockwaves. The city trembles, and then, silence, broken only by the crackle of burning wood. Inside the rubble, the French still live. At Schussende hours, Maligny radios the remnants of the 1st Moroccan Division holding the southern quarter. Their reply is garbled through static, still holding out of ammunition. Fighting hand to hand, he closes his eyes, knowing what that means. The Moroccan troops, known for their ferocity, are using bayonets, knives, and fists to hold their ground. Near the Saint Sauveur railway yard, they ambush a German column with grenades and captured weapons, shouting war cries that echo through the smoke. The Germans are stunned by their resolve and pull back temporarily to regroup. By late afternoon, flames engulf the industrial district. Oil tanks explode one after another, sending plumes of black smoke spiraling into the sky. The firestorm consumes entire blocks, forcing both sides to withdraw. The heat is unbearable. Paint blisters off walls and glass melts in the windows. Through this inferno, Sergeant Delacroix and his surviving men drag wounded comrades through debris-choked streets. They find shelter in a collapsed wine cellar. Among the wounded lies Private René Lefebvre, his arm bandaged crudely. He grips Delacroix's sleeve. Are we still holding, Sergeant? We are, son, Delacroix answers. And we'll hold till they run out of shells to throw at us. Above ground, German tanks prowl cautiously, wary of hidden ambushes. Their commanders have learned. Every corner could conceal a gun crew or an improvised explosive. The French fight not in formations anymore, but in pockets, small groups of men refusing to die. As night falls, the sky glows orange. The crackle of flames mixes with distant hymns from a surviving church choir, a haunting sound amid the ruin. In the basement of the prefecture, General Melini writes another entry in his notebook by the light of a candle stub. Day 3. We are still surrounded. Communications to the north lost. Ammunition critical. Morale remains high. He pauses, hearing faint singing through the shattered windows. The voices of Moroccan troops in the dark, chanting their regimental song. Despite the devastation, a strange calm settles over him. They are not fighting for Lille anymore. They are fighting for France's honor, and for the men escaping from Dunkirk because of their stand. And they will not yield. May 30th, 1941, 40 hours. Night cloaks Lille in a suffocating darkness. The moonlight struggles through the pall of smoke that hangs over the ruins. The wind carries the faint metallic scent of blood and gunpowder. The city, once alive with the hum of factories and laughter, now echoes with distant cries and the muffled thud of artillery. In the catacombs beneath the old citadel, Lieutenant Henry Duval moves silently with his remaining men. The tunnels are damp, littered with debris and the wounded. Their boots splash softly through puddles as they pass huddled civilians clutching candles and rosaries. A child looks up at him, eyes wide, and whispers, "Monsieur, are the Germans coming?" Duval hesitates, forcing a smile. Not tonight, Petty. Not tonight. He climbs the narrow stairwell to the surface. Emerging into a world of firelight and ruin, the Deaule Canal glows with reflected flames. Somewhere in the distance, a tank engine roars, its sound reverberating through the empty streets. Above ground, General Melini gathers his remaining officers in the cellar of a collapsed building near the Grand Place. His map is little more than scorched paper now, covered in hastily drawn lines marking pockets of resistance. The situation is desperate. To the east, Rommel's panzers have sealed every exit. To the west, General Reinhardt's 6th Panzer Division presses in from Armentières. The German 253rd Infantry Division has crossed the river, cutting off all communication with Dunkirk. They are trapped, entirely. Gentlemen, Melini says quietly, we are alone. But our stand has meaning. The British are still embarking. They owe that to you, to Lille. A silence fills the room. The men nod. They all know what he does. There will be no relief, no reinforcements, no escape. At dawn, the Germans resume their assault. Mortar fire rains down relentlessly. Buildings collapse like sandcastles. The Rue Solferino becomes a corridor of death, strewn with twisted bicycles, shattered windows and bodies half buried in dust. The French have no artillery left. Many units now fight with captured German weapons or whatever ammunition they can scavenge from the dead. At the St. Maurice Bridge, Captain Morel leads what remains of his company in a desperate counterattack. The bridge is vital. If the Germans cross, the city's core will fall. The men crawl through rubble, bullets snapping over their heads. When the first German half-track appears, Morel throws a grenade beneath it, flipping it onto its side in a burst of flame. "Hold the bridge!" he shouts. "Even if it kills us!" It nearly does. Within an hour, half his men are down. The others fight like ghosts, appearing and vanishing between the ruins, firing from windows, then falling back. German infantry advance with flamethrowers, their nozzles belching fire into basements and doorways. Screams echo across the water. Meanwhile, in the North Quarter, the Moroccan tirailleurs continue their defiant offense. Many of their officers are dead, but the men fight on, led by a young corporal named Abdallah El Fassi. His uniform is torn, his rifle down to one clip, yet his spirit is unbroken. When a German officer shouts through a loudspeaker, offering surrender and honor, Abdallah answers with a single shot. "Tell him," he growls, reloading, "that honor does not surrender." The Germans reply with artillery. By mid-afternoon, the sky darkens with smoke and exhaustion. Rain begins to fall again, thick, oily, black. Firefighters, mostly civilians, try to contain the inferno spreading across the textile quarter. But the flames consume everything: warehouses, homes, tram lines, even the hospital. In the field hospital beneath the shattered Église Saint-Étienne, medics work without morphine. They tear sheets into bandages, use bayonets as scalpels, and whisper prayers as shells burst outside. Among them is Nurse Claire Duroc, one of the few women who stayed behind. Her hands are blistered, her face streaked with soot, but she refuses to rest. "If they can fight," she says softly, tending a dying soldier, "then I can stay." That evening, as the last light fades, Melanie receives a coded transmission, the first in 2 days. It's faint, barely readable. "Dunkirk evacuations continuing. Your stand. Invaluable Godspeed." He sets the message down. His men have bought time, precious, irreplaceable time, but the cost is crushing. Outside, the German loudspeakers resume their haunting refrain. Französische Soldaten, der Krieg ist vorbei. Kapitulieren Sie, French soldiers. The war is over. Surrender. The men of Lille answer with silence. Then, somewhere in the dark, a bugle sounds the call to arms. And for one more night, the forgotten army of Lille prepares to fight again. May 31st, 1945, 30 hours. The morning begins with thunder, not from the sky, but from the German 88mm guns lined along the outskirts of Lille. They open fire in perfect rhythm, pounding the city block by block as if erasing it from the map. The once sturdy brick buildings crumble under the bombardment. Streets that yesterday were battle lines are now nothing but craters and smoking rubble. Inside a ruined post office, Lieutenant Duval and his men brace against the concussion of each blast. Plaster rains down like snow. He clutches the radio handset, trying to raise command, but all he gets is static and the faint crackle of other units. Voices screaming, then silence. "The line's dead again," Duval mutters. "We're fighting blind. Then we fight by sound," Sergeant Girard replies grimly, listening to the tank engines beyond the smoke. The enemy is closing in from 3 sides now. Rommel's 7th Panzer presses from the north, Hoepner's the 16th Corps is from the east, and Reinhardt's 6th Panzer seals the southern exits. Lille is no longer a battlefield, it's a cauldron. Yet inside that cauldron, the French still burn with defiance. By 7 o'clock, the Germans push into the Ouazims district, where remnants of the 1st Moroccan Division have fortified the streets with overturned trams and furniture. Machine guns rattle from windows, rifles crack from rooftops. The Moroccans, outnumbered 10-1, fight with desperate ferocity. A German column attempts to push through the main avenue and is met with grenades dropped from the 2nd floor of a collapsed bakery. The explosion sends men and metal flying. In the chaos, Corporal Abdallah El Fassi rallies his squad, their uniforms soaked in rain and blood. "They can take the buildings," he shouts, "but not our courage." They hold for hours, moving from doorway to doorway until the ammunition runs out. Then they switch to bayonets. By midday, their position is nothing but a heap of bricks. Of the 50 who began the defense, fewer than 10 remain. Abdallah's last act before collapsing from exhaustion is to drag his wounded comrade into a cellar and whisper, "Tell them in France we stood." At the Grand Place, General Molinius' headquarters shudders under another barrage. His staff works in the half-light, surrounded by the constant tremor of impact. Reports arrive from all corners, most incomplete, many heartbreaking. Units destroyed, streets lost, ammunition nearly gone. "We've done what we can," says Colonel Aim, his voice shaking. "They've broken through in 3 sectors. Then we counterattack in the 4th, Melanie answers, eyes hard. "Lille does not fall while we still breathe." The order goes out. Every available man, every bullet, every tank still capable of moving is to strike back. At 15 o'clock hours, under sheets of rain, a counterattack erupts from the heart of the city. French Hotchkiss tanks, old, slow, but defiant, roll forward alongside infantry through the ruins of Boulevard de la Liberté. German troops, caught off guard by the audacity, fall back in confusion. The French drive them block by block, bayonets flashing, shouts echoing through the mist. For a moment, just a heartbeat, Lille breathes again. But the German response is swift and merciless. Stukas dive low, dropping bombs that tear through the French lines. Tanks roll forward, firing point-blank into buildings. The counterattack dissolves into chaos. Bodies lie scattered in the rain. In the wreckage, Captain Morel, wounded in the shoulder, drags himself toward a fallen soldier to retrieve a single clip of ammunition. His face is pale, but his eyes burn with determination. He crawls to a window, takes aim, and fires until his last bullet. Then he slumps beside the gun, whispering, "Hold the city. Hold the name." By nightfall, the defenders are broken into isolated pockets. Communication between them has ceased entirely. Many have not eaten or slept in days. Yet none raise a white flag. In the flickering glow of burning buildings, French and Moroccan soldiers share the last of their rations, a crust of bread, a sip of rainwater. In one cellar, a priest kneels among them, murmuring prayers. The men bow their heads not for salvation, but for strength. Above ground, the Germans flood the city with loudspeakers once more. Lille has fallen, lay down your arms. The war is over. But for the men still alive inside these ruins, the war is not over. It will not be until the last rifle is silent. Melini, staring into the smoke-filled night, whispers to his adjutant. They think this is defeat. But every hour we fight, every minute, is victory at Dunkirk. And in that moment, he knows. Their sacrifice has already changed the course of the war. June 1st, 1940 10 hours. Rain lashes the ruins of Lille. The city groans under the weight of smoke and flame, a broken skeleton of its former self. In the shattered clock tower of the Hôtel de Ville, the clock hands are frozen at 2:10, as if time itself has surrendered. But down in the cellars beneath the Grand Place, the French have not. General Jean-Baptiste Melini stands before a flickering kerosene lamp, surrounded by his surviving officers. Their uniforms are blackened with soot, their faces hollow with exhaustion. The men have fought for 5 days without rest. Ammunition is almost gone. Many now fight with captured German rifles or even sidearms scavenged from the fallen. On the table lies what remains of the city map, half burned, edges curling. Melini traces his finger over the blackened paper, marking positions of what few units remain. We hold 3 strongpoints, he says quietly. The Citadel, Saint-Sauveur Station, and the Canal District. Everything else is gone. Colonel Aim looks up. And the enemy? Everywhere. Melini answers simply. He pauses, hearing the distant rumble of tanks. The floor shakes. Dust rains down from the ceiling. The German guns have resumed their methodical destruction, a slow grinding hammer that never stops. Melini closes his eyes briefly, then says what no man in the room wants to hear. We have done our duty. The evacuation at Dunkirk continues. The British, our comrades. They are safe because of what you did here. Silence. The officers exchange weary glances. Some blink back tears. And us, mon general? Asks Captain Leffert, voice low. Us? Melini replies, lifting his chin. We will finish what we began. We will fight until there is nothing left to fight with. Then, and only then, we will surrender as soldiers, not as defeated men. At dawn, the last French strongholds are attacked simultaneously. The citadel of Lille, built by Vauban centuries earlier, becomes the heart of the resistance. Its stone walls, once a relic of the past, now serve as the last refuge for nearly 15,000 French troops, regulars, reservists, and colonial soldiers. The Germans unleash a barrage of artillery that shakes the foundations of the fortress. Earth and debris rain down into the trenches. Men cover their ears, deafened by the thunder. When the shelling stops, panzers advance, their guns glowing red-hot. But the defenders open fire with what little they have left, 75mm field guns, Hotchkiss machine guns, and even captured Panzerfausts. The first tank explodes at the gate. The second rolls forward only to be stopped by an improvised barricade of sandbags and dead horses. The defenders, coughing in the dust, cheer hoarsely. They still come, mutters Sergeant Delacroix, reloading his rifle with trembling fingers. Then so will we. Through the smoke, he can see silhouettes, dozens, then hundreds of German infantry moving in waves. The French fire until their barrels glow. When the ammunition runs out, they switch to grenades, bayonets, even stones. It's chaos, primal and furious. Across the canal, Lieutenant Duval and his handful of men are trapped in the ruins of a textile warehouse. They can hear German voices outside, boots crunching over glass. Duval grips his last grenade, looks at his men and whispers, "If this is the end, let it be a loud one." But then, from across the river, the unexpected sound of a French bugle pierces the air, faint, defiant, unmistakable. The men freeze. Duval lowers the grenade, eyes wet. "They're still fighting," he says softly. "Then so will we." They hold through the morning, trading shot for shot with the advancing Germans. By noon, their last bullets are gone. Yet not a single man raises his hands. Meanwhile, in the Citadel courtyard, Melini walks among the wounded. Medics tend to men lying on stretchers, many beyond help. Nurse Claire Duroc moves from one to the next, her uniform soaked in blood and rain. When she sees Melini, she stops, eyes red. "They can't hold much longer, mon general," she says. He nods grimly. "Nor can I ask them to." A shell explodes nearby, shaking the earth. Dust fills the air. Melini stumbles, steadies himself, and looks toward the burning city. Lille, his city, is dying. He knows the truth now. Their stand has achieved its purpose. Reports confirm that the evacuation at Dunkirk is nearly complete. The ships have sailed. The men are safe. Their mission is done. At 18 o'clock hours, as the last light fades, Melini gives his final order. Signal the white flag. We will surrender at dawn. The men stare at him, silent, pale, broken. And then, one by one, they salute. No one speaks. No one cries. Outside, amid the ruins, a single trumpet sounds the cease fire. The echoes roll through the empty streets like ghosts. The Battle of Lille is over, but its echo will live forever. June 2nd, 1940, 5:45 hours. The first light of dawn seeps weakly through the smoke-choked sky. Lille lies in ruins, a shattered mosaic of fire-blackened buildings and twisted metal. The air smells of ash and wet earth, and the faint cries of the wounded echo through empty streets. At the Grand Place, General Melini walks among his surviving officers. Their faces are drawn and pale. Many are missing limbs, bandages crisscrossing arms and legs. They have fought continuously for 6 days. Morale, though battered, is unbroken. Melini signals to a young officer, Lieutenant Raymond Fournier, to raise the white flag atop the prefecture tower. The fabric flutters weakly in the damp morning wind. Across the ruined city, German troops emerge cautiously from cover, rifles ready. Tanks roll forward, their treads crunching over rubble. The enemy pauses at the sight of the flag, wary, surprised. "Gentlemen," Melini says quietly, "we surrender, not because we are defeated, but because our mission is complete." Dunkirk lives because of Lille. He surveys the streets, recognizing the cost. Thousands of French soldiers are dead or wounded. Buildings that housed families, shops, and lives lie in ruin. Smoke rises from every corner, but despite the devastation, there is a strange serenity. The city has held long enough for 300,000 Allied troops to escape across the Channel. German officers cautiously approach the surrendering French units. Rommel himself surveys the scene, noting the discipline and courage of men who had no hope of survival. He writes in his field notes later, "The French at Lille fought with the heart of lions. Their resistance delayed us, and without it, the evacuation at Dunkirk might have been impossible." Inside the citadel, Melini orders the men to stack their weapons and march out in formation. Each soldier moves slowly, some supported by comrades. Their faces are expressionless, but the pride in their stance is palpable. Every man understands the weight of what they accomplished. At the bridge over the Dioule, soldiers pause to glance at the waters below, imagining the thousands of men they saved, British, Belgian, French, boarding ships for safety. Some close their eyes, whispering silent prayers for friends who will never return. Civilians emerge from basements and shelters, stepping cautiously into streets scarred by destruction. They see their soldiers, ragged, exhausted, yet upright. For them, the men of Lille are heroes. The few outside these ruins will ever know their names. "They gave everything," whispers an old baker, looking at the passing soldiers. "And still they stand," a young girl murmurs, clutching a tattered doll. Melini watches his men file past. The citadel, once a symbol of military might, is now a graveyard for courage and sacrifice. Every corner bears the scars of street fighting, every wall a testament to human endurance. By midday, the city is under German control but eerily quiet. Looting is minimal. The soldiers recognize the bravery of their foes. Melini ensures that civilians are protected, hospitals remain operational, and the wounded are treated. Despite the horrors of battle, a code of honor persists amid the ashes. In a quiet moment, Melini writes in his final field diary entry, "The men of Lille, 40,000 strong, held against 7 German divisions. We delayed them long enough for the Channel evacuation. History may not remember us, but the men we saved will. This is enough." Above the city, the smoke begins to dissipate. The sun pierces the horizon, illuminating the ruined streets in gold and gray. Lille, battered but unbowed, stands as a monument to the bravery of soldiers who fought to the last man. For those who marched out under the white flag, the world would never truly know the cost of their courage. But for Dunkirk, they were nothing short of heroes. June 3, 1940. Lille, morning. The city lies quiet now, almost eerily so. Smoke drifts lazily from smoldering ruins. Streets once alive with soldiers and civilians are deserted. Only the charred skeletons of buildings, the twisted metal of broken vehicles, and the occasional groan of a wounded man signal the recent fury. German troops patrol the avenues, moving cautiously. They encounter scattered French soldiers, many of whom are exhausted, limping, and in shock. Despite their victory, the Germans sense the extraordinary resolve of the men they defeated. Reports make their way to Berlin. Lille was no ordinary surrender. 7 divisions were held at bay for nearly a week by 40,000 defenders, and the price of delay was thousands of lives saved at Dunkirk. Inside the citadel, General Molini gathers the remaining officers for one final address. Their faces are pale, etched with exhaustion, but a quiet pride shines through. "We may be prisoners now," he says, voice steady, "but we are not defeated. Our stand allowed hundreds of thousands to escape. That is our victory. That is our honor." There is no applause, no cheering, only the weight of understanding, the silent acknowledgement of what has been endured and accomplished. Across the city, the wounded are treated as best as possible. Civilian doctors and nurses work alongside French medics, salvaging supplies from destroyed hospitals. Among them is Nurse Claire Durac, still tirelessly moving through the corridors of pain and blood. She pauses by a makeshift cot where a young Moroccan tirailleur lies unconscious, his bandages soaked. "Rest," she whispers. "You fought for something greater than yourself." Outside, the streets are littered with the debris of war. Helmets, rifles, and shattered wagons lie abandoned. Children cautiously peek from behind ruined walls, seeing soldiers march out under German supervision. The older ones whisper to each other, wide-eyed, the story of bravery they will carry in secret. The city's industrial heartbeat, once roaring with machinery, remains silent. Factories that produce tanks, artillery, and supplies for the French army are destroyed or captured. But for Lille, the human heartbeat, the courage, endurance, and sacrifice is eternal. In the evening, Molini reflects quietly in his temporary quarters, a small ruined room in the citadel. He writes in his notebook, "History will likely overlook us. The newspapers will focus on Dunkirk, on retreat, on German triumph. But those who know the truth, the men who survived, the men who died, will carry our story. We fought to the last man. And in that, Lille will never be forgotten." He looks out a shattered window at the darkened city. Smoke rises, but stars begin to pierce the gloom. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings, cracked but still functioning. For a moment, it sounds like a triumphant note of resilience against the devastation. That night, the survivors sleep fitfully, haunted by memories of the fallen and the roar of engines, bombs, and rifles. They are prisoners now, yes, but the knowledge of what they achieved, the miracle of delay that allowed Dunkirk to succeed, is a quiet, enduring victory. Lille may lie in ruins. Its defenders may be scattered across POW camps or nursing wounds. Yet in every corner of the Channel coast where British and French soldiers stood safely on waiting ships, the courage of the men of Lille has echoed across history. The city's streets are silent, but the memory of heroism pulses invisibly through every ruined wall and shattered street. June 5, 1940, Lille late afternoon. The city is calm now, almost eerily so. German patrols move with efficiency, taking stock of what remains. Civilians wander through rubble-strewn streets, retrieving belongings or checking on loved ones. Smoke still curls from shattered chimneys, but the immediate violence has passed. Inside the citadel, General Molini meets with German officers to formalize the surrender. They speak cautiously, respectful of the remarkable resistance they have just witnessed. Rommel himself, ever the tactician, makes note of the French defense in his report. Lille's defenders exhibited extraordinary courage and skill. Their resistance delayed us significantly. They deserve recognition, even as we occupy the city. Molini nods, silently acknowledging the compliment while hiding the pain of loss. His men, though still able to stand, are gathered in formation. Faces smeared with mud and ash, eyes hollow yet burning with pride, they salute their general. "You did more than hold Lille," Molini tells them. "You held France's honor, remember that. The world may forget our names, but history cannot erase our deeds." For the men, the words are both balm and burden. They fought to the last man. Many fell, many were captured, and yet none surrendered lightly. They were forgotten by the larger narrative, yet their impact resonates invisibly across the Channel. Every British soldier evacuated from Dunkirk owes a debt to these unseen defenders. The prisoners are processed. Officers are separated from enlisted men, and the wounded are taken to field hospitals under German supervision. Despite the harsh reality, there is an unspoken respect. German officers allow the men a degree of dignity, the right to bury comrades, to retrieve personal belongings, to maintain order among themselves. In quiet corners of the citadel, survivors gather in small groups. They share stories, names of friends lost, brief anecdotes of heroism, the moments when they almost fell but refused. They speak in hushed tones, knowing that the world outside may never hear these tales. Yet they carry them forward, an oral history of courage. Among them is Sergeant Delacroix, who wanders through the empty streets noting the destruction around him. He stops at a collapsed bakery where he once repelled a German advance with grenades and fire. The memory of those screams, the smell of burning flour and gunpowder remains vivid. "We fought for every street, every corner," he murmurs. "And now?" We walk among ghosts. But even in the silence there is pride. They know their stand saved hundreds of thousands of lives, delayed the German advance, and allowed Dunkirk to proceed. For the men of Lille, this knowledge is their reward. Recognition from history may come slowly, but they carry the truth in their hearts. By evening, the city settles into a tense calm. Soldiers patrol, civilians return to homes where they can, and the wounded receive care. The ruins of Lille stand as a testament. Fortitude, courage, and sacrifice etched into every brick and street. Maligny sits alone on a pile of rubble near the Grand Place, penning a final note in his field diary. "We were forgotten in the records, overlooked in the history books, but our actions saved thousands. That is our legacy." Lille stood, and in its stand France endured. Outside, the sun dips below the horizon, casting the city in a blood-red glow. The war rages elsewhere, but in Lille, a chapter of bravery, the forgotten soldiers who fought to the last man, comes to a quiet close. June 10, 1940. Lille, morning light. The city is quiet now. Smoke rises gently from isolated fires, and the air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and charred timber. The streets are littered with remnants of the siege. Broken helmets, shattered rifles, and scorched buildings, silent witnesses to the ferocity that once raged here. Former soldiers, now prisoners of war, march in groups under German supervision. Their steps are slow, careful, each footfall a reminder of the days spent fighting in close-quarter hell. Some sing softly in low voices, the melodies of regimental songs meant to steady nerves and honor the fallen. Their eyes are tired, their bodies battered, yet a sense of quiet dignity persists. In the rubble of the Grand Place, civilians begin to emerge fully. They walk among the debris, collecting what they can, helping the wounded and mourning the dead. Mothers cling to children, and neighbors help one another rebuild small pockets of life amid the ruins. The city itself seems to breathe a long, exhausted sigh. Across France, the story of Lille is largely unspoken. While Dunkirk commands headlines, the courage of the 40,000 French soldiers who held 7 divisions is a footnote, their sacrifice largely unrecognized. Yet, in secret letters, diaries, and the whispered stories passed among soldiers, Lille's defenders are immortalized. Back in POW camps, officers like General Maligny and Captain Morel recount the siege in detail to fellow prisoners. They speak of the Moroccan tirailleurs, the men who fought with bayonets when ammunition ran out, the civilians who risked their lives to help, and the soldiers who held the bridges and streets to the last breath. Each tale is a testament to endurance, valor, and selfless sacrifice. Years later, veterans of Lille would return to the city. They walked the same streets, now repaired, remembering the friends they lost. They stood quietly at the citadel, reflecting on the countless lives saved at Dunkirk because they had refused to yield. Monuments were erected, plaques placed in small courtyards, and names inscribed in local churches. Yet the broader world largely forgot the story. Still, the men knew the truth, their stand mattered. They had held the line against overwhelming odds, given time to thousands to escape, and maintained honor when surrender was the only path left. They had fought to the last man, and in doing so, they etched an invisible mark on history. In quiet moments, survivors would write, "We were forgotten by the world, but not by ourselves. We held Lille, and in holding it, we held France's hope." The city itself remembers. The Grand Place, the canal bridges, the streets still carry the memory of bravery. The walls bear scars from the shells. The foundations trembled beneath the boots of both conquerors and defenders. Lille became a symbol, not of defeat, but of courage in the face of inevitable odds. For every soldier who fell, for every officer who gave orders knowing they would never leave the ruins alive, and for every civilian who braved the rubble, the legacy is clear. Courage need not be remembered to be heroic. The act itself is immortal. And so, Lille stands, a city rebuilt, but never forgetting the men who fought within its walls. Generations would walk its streets, perhaps unaware of the price paid. Yet the echoes of courage linger, silent but unwavering. The forgotten French soldiers of 1940 may not have filled the headlines, but their bravery shaped the course of history in a moment that would determine the fate of Europe. History may have overlooked them, but courage always remembers itself.